I was 12 the day the Drekhari came for our farm. I'd been sorting seed stock in the side shed, lining up the trays by germination window the way my father had taught me, when the first transport crested the north ridge. Low-bellied, military gray, the kind of silhouette that rattled the well pump and sent our chickens scattering sideways into the drainage ditch. I counted 3 more behind it. By the time I reached the front of the house, my father was already on the porch with his coffee, sitting in the cane-back chair my mother had refinished the spring before she died. He set the mug down on the arm of the chair. He didn't stand. Drum was beside him. He was always beside him. 187 pounds of English mastiff stretched across the porch boards, with his chin on his front paws and one ear folded the wrong way. 9 years old that spring, gray along the muzzle, gray above both eyes, a loose fold of skin under his jaw that collected dust and morning dew and never quite dried before noon. He had no harness, no title, no working classification. He was a farm dog. He slept on the porch. He ate from a steel bowl my mother had bought at the hardware depot in town, and he followed my father to the barn and back every morning. Same route, same pace, same unhurried rhythm, for 9 years. If you didn't live with him, you might not notice he was breathing. He was that still. He didn't stand either. The Drekhari set down in the east paddock. 4 transports, one behind the other, drop-ramp landings that churned the soil and knocked over 2 fence posts. My father watched them break his fence from the porch. He said nothing. There were 11 of them, tall, slate-scaled, armored in overlapping thoracic plates that clicked when they walked, a sound like ceramic tiles settling after a tremor. The squad leader was the broadest, 2 meters across the shoulders, a tactical crest running from his brow ridge to the base of his skull. His hands were the size of trenching spades. He carried a manifest tablet in one and a sidearm on his belt. He used the manifest. Human designation Jonas Kerr, he read from the foot of the porch steps. His standard was clean, clipped, almost courteous. Drekhari Expansion Mandate, Parcel 1940. This land is filed for sovereign reclamation under Territorial Charter 7. You have until local sunset to remove personal effects. All standing structures become mandate property at first dark. My father picked up his mug, took a sip. The mug was chipped on the rim. He'd cracked it, dropping it on the pump housing 2 winters back, and never saw the point of replacing it. He set it back on the chair arm and looked at the squad leader the way he looked at weather he couldn't change, but wasn't worried about. "No," he said. The squad leader blinked, both sets of lids, inner, then outer, a slow double shutter. He looked at his manifest, then at the house, then at my father, and then, for the first time, at the dog. I don't think he'd noticed Drum before that moment. People didn't, usually. Drum was so large and so still that he became part of whatever surface he lay on. Visitors walked past him. Delivery runners stepped over his tail. He had a way of being enormous and invisible at the same time, like a boulder that had always been in the yard. You stopped seeing it because it never moved. The squad leader studied the dog. 4 seconds. I was close enough to hear his throat plates tighten, a sharp, involuntary click, like a swallow that caught halfway. He turned to the officer behind him and spoke a short phrase in Drekhari, low and fast. She unclipped a handheld scanner from her belt and aimed it at the porch. The scanner chimed once, high and clean, then lower. Then it went silent. She tapped the housing, checked the readout, frowned, if that's the right word for what Drekhari do with their faces, and tapped it again. Ran the scan a second time, same result. The tone climbed, reached something, and stopped dead, like a signal that had hit a ceiling it wasn't built for. Drum hadn't moved. His eyes were open, soft and brown, aimed loosely at the squad leader's boots. His tail lay flat on the boards. His breathing was the same slow pull it had been all morning. Deep, a little raspy on the inhale because he was old and the season was dry, and the pollen count had been high since mid-spring. The squad leader stepped forward. One step. Onto the bottom stair. The porch had 3 stairs. My father's chair was at the top. Drum's eyes shifted. Not his head, not his shoulders. Just his eyes. From the boots to the face. Soft, level, unhurried. The same look he gave the barn cats when they wandered too close to his bowl. Not a growl, not a warning, just acknowledgement. I see you. The squad leader stopped. I have thought about that moment more often than any other in my life. The Drekhari are not cowards. Their expansion mandate had processed 47 settlements in our sector that season alone. They had cracked the Selkie defense perimeter in 6 standard hours. 11 armored officers stood in our broken paddock with 4 transports and a legal mandate. Stamped, filed, and sealed. And one of them stopped on the bottom step of a farmhouse porch because a 9-year-old dog moved his eyes. The squad leader spoke over his shoulder. Quieter now. The second officer pulled a different device. Wider, heavier, both hands, and held it at chest height, aimed at the porch. It ran for 6 seconds. I counted. A single low tone, and then she lowered it and looked at the screen for a long time. She leaned to the squad leader's ear and said one word. Standard. Quiet enough that I almost missed it. Apex. The squad leader looked at my father. My father looked back. Drum breathed. There is no Apex classification filing for this parcel, the squad leader said. His voice had shifted register. Not afraid. Recalibrated. He's a dog, my father said. The scanner classifies him as a Category 1 Apex terrestrial. Under protocol, that designation requires full containment clearance before any reclamation action can proceed. My father reached down and scratched behind Drum's left ear. Drum leaned into it, a fraction of an inch, and his tail swept once across the boards and back. One pass. Slow. He likes that spot, my father said. Had a bad hip since he was 6. Some mornings he can't make it to the barn, so I carry his bowl out here instead. The squad leader stared at him. You cohabit with this animal, he said. Not a question. Something he was recalculating. 9 years. The second officer murmured something longer. I caught fragments. Deathworld, companion bonded, and a phrase I'd never heard before. Uncontained apex symbiosis. She said it the way someone reads a warning label they had always assumed was hypothetical. The squad leader switched off his manifest tablet, pressed the side button, and held it until the screen went dark. Parcel 1940 is deferred, he said, loud enough for the squad. Indefinitely. A young Drekhari at the rear, thin, unmarked plates, a cadet by the look of him, started to object. Sir, the charter deadline. Deferred. The squad leader did not turn around. Log it. My father took another sip of coffee. The squad leader held his gaze for one more moment, then looked at me. I was sitting on the side bench with a seed tray balanced on my knees. Your father, he said to me, and there was nothing cruel in his voice. He is either very steady, or he understood something we did not. I looked at Drum. His eyes had closed. His breathing had dropped into that long, heavy rhythm that meant he was fully out. Deep sleep. The kind where his paws twitched and his big chest rose and fell like something old and mechanical, and perfectly reliable. He's a good dog, I said, because that was the truth, and because I was 12, and I didn't have a better answer. The Drekhari left, 4 transports, one by one, climbing the north ridge, with their running lights already dimming against the afternoon sky. They left the fence broken. My father fixed it that evening while Drum lay in the grass beside him and watched him work, chin on his paws, slow blink, the way he watched everything, as if the world was moving at exactly the speed he expected and not one beat faster. Years later, after I'd gone off station and studied and come back, I asked my father whether he'd known what the scanner would show, whether he'd known Drum would register as Apex, whether he'd been afraid. He said he hadn't been afraid. He said Drum was a mastiff, and that mastiffs had been lying on porches beside their people for 600 years, and that in all that time, Nobody who sat quiet next to one had ever needed to stand. Drum died at 14. On the porch, in the sun, in the spot where he had slept every morning since we brought him home as a pup too big to carry. My father buried him at the edge of the north field, under the oak, where you can see the ridge. He set the steel bowl on the fence post beside the marker and left it there. It's still there. The Drekhari still log parcel 1940 as deferred.